Imagine this. You have a superpower that lets you remember everything you've ever seen, heard, or experienced, and you can recall it instantly without any effort. Sounds amazing, right? But what if I told you that this superpower was once a common skill, one that ancient people used every day? And then, one day, it just disappeared. It's true. The art of memory, once a prized skill, has been largely forgotten in our modern world. Let's dive into the story of how this happened and why it matters. In the ancient world, memory was a critical skill. There were no smartphones, no computers, and no books to store information. People had to rely on their own minds to remember everything. Imagine being a bard in ancient Greece, tasked with reciting long epic poems like the Iliad and the Odyssey. These poems were thousands of lines long, and the bards had to remember every word, every line, and every detail. How did they do it? They used techniques that are now largely forgotten, but they were once the foundation of human knowledge and culture. One of the most powerful techniques was called the method of loci. This method involved creating a mental map of a familiar place, like your house or a town, and placing the things you wanted to remember in specific locations within that map. For example, if you wanted to remember a list of groceries, you might imagine walking through your house, placing each item in a different room. When you needed to recall the list, you would mentally walk through your house and see the items in their designated spots. This technique worked because the human brain is incredibly good at remembering spatial relationships. The ancient Greeks and Romans were masters of this method. They used it to remember speeches, poems, and even complex philosophical ideas. Cicero, the famous Roman orator, wrote extensively about the importance of memory. He believed that a good memory was essential for anyone who wanted to be a successful speaker or politician. In his book, De Orator, he describes the method of loci and how it can be used to organize and recall vast amounts of information. But the art of memory wasn't just about remembering things. It was also a way of thinking. By organizing information in a spatial way, people could see connections and patterns that might not be obvious otherwise. This helped them solve problems, make decisions, and create new ideas. In a sense, the art of memory was a tool for creativity and innovation. As time went on, the art of memory began to change. The invention of writing and later, the printing press, made it easier to store and share information. Books became more common, and people no longer had to rely solely on their own memories. This was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it meant that knowledge could be preserved and passed down more easily. On the other hand, it meant that the skills and techniques that had been developed over centuries began to fade. During the Middle Ages, the art of memory took on a new form. Monks and scholars used it to memorize religious texts and classical works. They created elaborate mental palaces, filled with images and symbols that represented different ideas. This was a way of organizing knowledge in a way that was both visual and memorable. For example, a monk might imagine a grand cathedral, with each room representing a different book of the Bible. Inside each room, he would place images that represented key passages or ideas. When he needed to recall a specific part of the text, he could mentally walk through the cathedral and see the relevant images. The Renaissance brought a renewed interest in the art of memory. Scholars like Giordano Bruno and Robert Flood wrote about the power of memory and its potential to transform human knowledge. They saw memory as a bridge between the physical world and the spiritual realm. Bruno, in particular, believed that the art of memory could be used to access hidden truths and connect with the divine. His ideas were so radical that he was eventually burned at the stake for heresy. But even as the art of memory was being celebrated, it was also being overshadowed by new technologies. The printing press made books more accessible, and the scientific revolution brought new ways of thinking about the world. People began to rely more on external sources of information and less on their own memories. This trend continued into the modern era, with the rise of computers and the internet. Today, we can access almost any information we need with a few taps on a screen. We no longer have to remember much of anything. So, what does this mean for us? Is the art of memory just a relic of the past, or is there still something valuable in it? The answer is both. While we don't need to memorize entire books or epic poems, the principles behind the art of memory can still be incredibly useful. For example, the method of loci can be a powerful tool for learning and retaining information. Whether you're studying for a test, preparing a presentation, or trying to remember a grocery list, creating a mental map can make it easier to recall the information when you need it. Moreover, the art of memory can help us think more creatively. By organizing information in a spatial way, we can see connections and patterns that might not be obvious otherwise. This can lead to new insights and ideas. In a world where information is abundant, the ability to make sense of it all is more important than ever. The art of memory also has practical applications in our daily lives. For example, it can help us remember important dates, appointments, and tasks. It can improve our focus and concentration, which are essential skills in today's fast-paced world. And perhaps most importantly, it can enhance our sense of well-being. By training our minds to remember and organize information, we can reduce stress and anxiety. In a world where we are constantly bombarded with information, the art of memory can be a valuable tool for managing our mental workload. It can help us stay focused, organized, and creative. And in a world where technology can sometimes make us feel disconnected, the art of memory can help us reconnect with our own minds and with the world around us. So, the next time you find yourself reaching for your phone to look up a fact or remind you of a task, take a moment to think about the art of memory. Try using some of the techniques that ancient people used to remember things. You might be surprised at how much you can remember, and how much it can improve your life. The art of memory is not just a historical curiosity. It is a living, breathing skill that can still be practiced and developed. By learning and using these techniques, we can enhance our cognitive abilities, improve our learning, and enrich our lives. In a world where technology can sometimes make us feel isolated and overwhelmed, the art of memory can be a powerful tool for connection and clarity. So why not give it a try? You might just discover a superpower you never knew you had.